Hey everybody, this is the Charts and Helps page in the Tools section of the Peer Reviewer module. Um, in this page, I just wanted to go over a few different charts and um, links that we have provided that will be helpful to you as you go through the review process. Um, I wanted to start out first by bringing up this meme that has circulated. It's a fields arranged by purity. That was the initial meme, and then this is one of the iterations with Dilbert. So um, this, as you can see, is the various fields. Sometimes these have been called, the hard to soft science continuum. You have people like sociologists and psychologists in the behavioral sciences realm, and then they're compared to the hard sciences like chemistry and physics. This was the initial meme right here, and then someone added uh, mathematicians and and then Dilbert here. So you have Dilbert here saying, you guys should find a job. And then you have the economists. I don't think it should be economists. It should be business owners who are saying, "Hey, I wasn't listening to you. I was busy making money." And then you have the philosophers who are holding up everybody else without being seen. And then you have the cosmic turtle. Um, I just thought this was a funny way to begin and help to see or help to show you kind of where this journal stands amidst the other fields and other academic journals, because there are tons of academic journals, and there are many different um, methodologies that each discipline uses depending on the tools that are available to them. And there's very different aims and purposes for each journal. Some are way more professional, some are way more research based, some are way more based in medicine and practical matters, and some journals are way more theoretical. Um, I I would group our journal um, uh, sort of close to the philosophers field in that it's a sort of humanities literature. We're dealing with literature that's uh, amidst like ancient Near Eastern texts and classics, and we're dealing in the realms of philosophy and theology. Um, and so these are areas that pervade every other discipline, but just in the same way that other disciplines pervade every other discipline. And the boundary that we are at will be dealing with much more the philosophical or humanities or literary or historical level. And then we also have the church and missions um, uh, area of specialization. I would put the theology and philosophy area of specialization within much closer to other humanities journals. But then, and same thing with the scripture and interpretation. But then, when you look at um, church and missions, these areas of specializations are or areas of specialization are much closer to the applied field. So like engineering and business and I would maybe say as much economics, but more business and engineering. Those are applied sorts of areas, and you'll get to see that when we look at some of these charts here. So I'll close out this. All right. Um, So first, we'll go out of order here. We'll look at the submission, um, or no, we'll go in order. So we'll look at the quality comparison chart. So this here is looking at the various types of publications. So you have sensational magazines, which are very minimal factual information and just more for just to sell copies and poke fun and, enter into um, pop culture and just take jabs and things like that. So, the purpose for them is to just shock the readers, really. And then you have all the way on the other end the scholarly journals. So we're on this end, fortunately. Um, but as I was saying, with the more applied professional sorts of journals, maybe counseling and therapy journals or business journals or um, engineering sorts of journals. Some of maybe not so much the engineering, but at least the business um, journals are concerned much more with practical information. So it's kind of interesting. Our journal, at least for the two first areas of specialization, the theology and philosophy, as well as the scripture and interpretation, those fall under the scholarly journal category here. And then as we move into the church and missions um, area of specialization, those are a little bit closer to the trade publications. Now, we are still trying to be much closer to the scholarly journals, but those articles that are submitted in that area will be geared more to practical application. And so it's just inescapable that you will be having a mixture of purpose and, uh, citation and language and audience and things like that that will fall under both scholarly journals and trade publications. But I wanted to give you a look at this chart just so that you can have a general understanding of what are the differences between various publications and what makes one scholarly, and what are the sorts of processes that take place in um, creating, having a review board for any of these sorts of things. And then what's the expectation for graphics and advertising and things like that? What goes into making a scholarly journal versus a trade publication or a newspaper or a sensational magazine? So you can look through that yourself, and I highly recommend just looking at it every now and then when you are thinking about various things like who who are going to be the authors and who are going to be the audience and things like that. So the second chart that I have here is the submission types. So wait for that. All right. So these are various types of articles that will be submitted or not submitted to the journal. Um, I listed here these in levels of difficulty of acceptance, um, and what will likely be published in our journal and what will um, not likely be published, and how rigorous we will be in the review process and quality, um, in the testing the quality of the article. So you have here a book review at the very beginning. So this provides insight and a key or a summary of key ideas and some recently published books. Those are very easy to do. Any one of us could do that. We will be getting a good amount of book reviews, and unfortunately, we'll only be able to publish a few of them at a time. And so those are the easiest. And then here at the end, you have the clinical case studies. So these are usually medical. These are randomized, placebo-controlled studies, and these will not be in our journal. um, Very, very, very unlikely. If we are getting some sort of paper like this, that will probably be rejected, especially if it doesn't have IRB approval, because there are a lot of legalities that go into that. But in between, I wanted to go over certain other types of articles so you can kind of get a gauge on which article you've received and how you should be looking at it, what's the context of it, what you should expect from it, and what you shouldn't. Beyond a book review is the review article. So this just is more of a survey of the existing literature, and it identifies gaps in the literature, future recommendations um, for research in the field later. Um, and so this is a little bit easier than a regular article still. It's still much broader in scope than a book review. It is basically a literature review, that has future recommendations and identifies the gaps in the literature. And the person doesn't necessarily have to make a novel contribution to the field. Their novel contribution is synthesizing and summarizing the research that is already there. So that's a review article. The next sort of article is the standard article, I called it. So this is going to be what a lot of people will be aiming at, and what we will be hoping to publish the most of. So this is a article that the person has a novel contribution to the field, and they use some sort of methodological device or thought experiment or concept, and shows how it has major implications for either one specific issue, several issues, or the fundamental concepts prevalent in a field. We'll get more into what that looks like and how you might give transformative feedback in helping a person um, who is lacking in some of these areas, who have submitted a standard article. But it's important to note, is this person submitting a review article, and should I judge it as that? Um, or are they submitting a standard article, and should I judge it as that? And then also here we have a commentary. So this is usually published alongside another article that will be published in the volume, and this is usually given by an authority in the field, and they will make a critique or comment on um, the other article that will be published in that same volume. So these are harder to get in because I will have to solicit them, and we will have this planned out, and we will be contacting the expert in the field to submit that ahead of time. That's why it's listed as a slightly more difficult um, article to be accepted. And then we went through clinical case studies, which are very unlikely to be published at any point in our journal, but also primary source material. This has actually an opportunity to be part of our journal, in the sense that since we do church and missions, missiology, these are fields of sociology and anthropology and maybe behavioral psychology, where a person might um, do, write some ethnographic um, synthesis, or maybe they'll do their own ethnography, or their own um, anthropological observations. You will have to get IRB approval in certain cases, and I will help you along that process. And it's very unlikely that this will take place, but there's a lot of opportunity for novel research and contributing to the fields and missions and things like that. And this is an opportunity for you to get accepted into the journal, and for students to be accepted in with their submissions. But if you do come across something like this, and I screened it and it was missed, you'll definitely have to contact me and let me know, or the associate editors will do so. So that is the various submission types. Next, we will go over the revision recommendations. This is probably one of the most helpful ways of giving transformative feedback to students. You will just have to kind of understand what's being said here, and then you can word it to be relevant to the article that was submitted and that you're reviewing. And you will be able to use a lot of this terminology and things like that when you are giving your transformative feedback. So this is just a tool that'll help you provide transformative feedback, and these are just suggestions. I don't want to influence the way you're judging an article. That is completely you. This is why it's double blind. But this will just maybe give you the language in order to convey certain critiques and things of the paper, especially if you're rejecting them. So these are the various areas of the paper. I broke it down. I went over literature review, novel contributions, the methodology, the overall cohesion, and then bonus points here. So um, in the literature review, um, you're going to initially check for similar research, and you'll do that by looking through our library system, doing a Boolean keyword search, or looking through Google Scholar and other things for similar research, just to see if it stands out um, enough, or if it deviates too far, and see if the person has an understanding of the literature. One of the main things is you'll notice that um, a paper might have a lot of idiosyncratic language, and they don't seem to have a grasp of the terms that have been used, especially the the terms that have a strong historical context that should be used. And if they're not, that's an opportunity to say, hey, um, you might want to survey the literature a little bit more before you try to contribute to that literature. Um, and then here we have novel contributions. How do you determine whether something is a novel contribution? Well, one of the things that you could look at is uh, seeing if the article submission contains a label that they made, identifying their contribution. Very good, good writers go out of their way to identify their contribution, and there is many times in which there is a new contribution and yet it isn't labeled. So here's another way where you might be able to tell the person submitting that, hey, it looks like you have something here. It's novel, it's a contribution, but you didn't label it. You didn't make it, you didn't call it, the swamp man problem. You didn't call it the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. You didn't call it so on and so forth. What what it needs to be called in order to be demonstrate that this is the new uh, concept that you're implementing. So that's just another way that you can kind of provide transformative feedback in the area of novel contributions. And then for methodology, this is very important too, because many times, especially students, they don't know when to stop their research. They don't know how broad they should go or how narrow they should go, or even the parameters that the sorts of parameters that need to be set in order to have a good methodology and know when to stop. So I gave a couple examples here. Dietary restrictions of Italian commuters in Paris, France from 1801 to 1810. Very, very definitive, very narrow, very unlikely that somebody has done a lot of work, that there's been volumes published in this very specific area, and a very so tight that it is there is room for novel contributions, and you know when to stop your research. Oh, you've read everything from 1801 to 1810. You're done with your literature review. Um, so, or at least you've read everything from there or about that time period. Then you're done with your literature review. Um, so these are other ways where you can kind of give transformative feedback, and um, so you can look through all of these and just kind of make it your own as you apply it to your reviews. And then lastly, very quickly, um, I'll be adding on to this much more, but if a student emails you, or you're interested in doing a book review, um, and, or you need to help guide a student to where to find books to review, um, or if you're trying to check on a book review that was submitted to you, or assigned to you, to see if it is recent enough and things like that, you can look through these academic presses, and links to major retailers and things like that. So I just listed that out here, and that'll grow as we progress. And that's pretty much it for the charts and helps for now.